Hey everyone, Press Dior here, and I am the player that plays as Ashira in Wes's Pathfinder campaign of Skull and Shackles. So this video, I'm kind of just going to go over a little bit about Ashira, kind of what she's going to be doing and going through, and kind of just the thoughts about the campaign in general. So this is a pre-gen module that Wes is running. He's made some personal tweaks to it, and there's obviously been a bunch of forum posts that have been kind of, you know, talking about their issues they've run into with the campaign, their own fixes as well. So it's not a perfect campaign, but overall, I do kind of enjoy the start of it. The start of it kind of ensures that the party kind of stays together and at least is forced to work together and stay out of trouble simply because there's some NPCs that have whips that will whip them into shape if they decide to go out of line. But the neat thing was it has a lot of emphasis on skill challenges rather than raw combat in the beginning, which is really nice. I generally don't see too many skill challenges, and a lot of times the skill challenges I usually see are just the standard like climb or jump across a pit or something like that. So seeing things that involve like other skills like sailing or fishing and things like that is a kind of a neat aspect about it. I also like the aspect that it kind of revolved around trying to just build influence with the rest of the crew. So when it came time to the mutiny, they could have additional allies and things like that. I like the fact that with enough work, even the hostile characters can eventually become your friend. Slippery Sill is pretty much friends with Ashira, or at the very least, they're mutual acquaintances that see profit in keeping each other alive. And yeah, as for my character, I went with a witch. One of the things that, one thing to kind of explain about campaigns I've done with Wes is a lot of times I'm usually the one that's stuck as the caster / a support character. Part of that is mainly because no one else would play them. The other reason is usually I prefer playing a caster simply because in 3rd edition D&D it was just more interesting to play those types of classes. I didn't really find fighter classes and stuff very entertaining usually. That and they don't usually have a lot of tools in their belt for handling issues that they can't hack and slash through. I did play rogues for a time where I do things like use magic device and stuff, so I do some pretty fancy stuff with them. But I like playing classes that have or characters that have a lot of abilities and methods to solve problems. That was one of the things I told my previous Pathfinder group that I recorded a while back. I pretty much told them I like playing these types of classes because I like solving problems. But having played so long with Wes and kind of in the campaign with where I play as Dialisa the cleric, and then this campaign, I kind of come to the realization that it kind of felt like the group was taking the fact that I play a really good support character for granted. I guess you can say it's something I don't like thinking because I don't like that. I don't like feeling like I'm being elitist or something like that. But I kind of noticed it with when I was playing the cleric in the campaign with Bill, who played as Flex, and some of the other people, and how crazy that kind of ended up. For the most part, the party really liked Dialisa as far as a support. I mean, they were literally like, "Hey, you are the best healer support person I've had, like ever," and there wasn't really much to compare with because in their case, any time that I wasn't around, the games I wasn't around for. They just had an NPC healer type thing, essentially like a backpack healer. But even with that praise, like as far as in character, it was mostly like they were plotting my character. It was almost like half the group was plotting my character's death. They were really annoying and aggressive, and they were just generally rude to Dialisa, even though she was a noble and she's been keeping them alive this entire time. And that was kind of the same issue I ran into with this. One thing that I always talk to Wes a lot because he's a DM and we've been friends for quite a while, and we talk shop and stuff like that. And throughout the campaign, we kind of realized that how important Ashira is as far as combat's concerned. It really kind of first came into play when in the very first major battle where we were fighting the rats and the bilges, and the party literally had no weapons, and Ashira literally slept like almost all of them with the Slumber Hex, which is a very powerful hex. Um, and then in other encounters, it was just like, all right, I slumber this, I slumber this, I slumber this. It was essentially she was a controller as far as like the battle's concerned, and she was really good at it. That and Wes was rolling really, really bad, but in the caves, I was literally sleeping. I slept majority of the enemies. I slept the main boss, which means that he was just killed with a coup de grace. It was really kind of crazy, and I definitely appreciate the fact that Wes allowed me to do that. He allowed me to slumber hex the big guy because you could. The rule said I could, and he was like, "All right, I failed to save. Well, well, you guys got the advantage now." Um, the only time he specifically, West actually specifically fudged the rules for the Slumber Hex was on the Mutiny, which was both the officers, Plug and Scourge. He just auto passed them. If he hadn't, they would have failed. Because based off the next roll, it would have failed. But at that point, I didn't really have an issue with it. I was talking with Wes quite a bit, and we're like, yeah, I really wanted the mutiny to be like a fight that the rest of the party could say is their victory. Granted, it still ended up with Ashira killing Scourge with her super crit and stuff like that, but at the very least, it gave an opportunity for them to kind of do their thing a little bit more, which was helpful. But also during that session, you might have noticed I was very blunt when Cahoon started asking questions about like, hey, what should we do? What do you think we should do? I pretty much was just telling him, I don't know, it's up to you. You're the captain or you're the bosun. And there's reasons for that. Like I mentioned before, I generally was like the support character. Not only was I usually the support character in these groups, I was usually the leader. I mean, that was kind of what it was with Dialisa. I was the leader, and usually I didn't mind being the leader. Before Dialisa, when I was in the military and leading the group and stuff, the group was usually they weren't they weren't really jerks with me, or even. And they kind of just, followed along, and they were new to the game, and things were kind of okay. But with Dialisa, everyone was kind of rude and kind of jerks and plotting my death. And in this group, they're kind of rude and just more and more rude. In fact, it got to the point where, like, Cahoon just literally was just like, hey, you're the slut of all the females. And I was just like, where did that come from? I've never had a PC just flat out say something like that. And, I mean, I know the group likes to joke and stuff like that, and sometimes they do this silly joke about, the fact I'm playing a female character and all that stuff, and I'm like, whatever. I mean, Wes knows I play female characters, and he doesn't have an issue with it. But at this point, it got kind of just tiring. Like, the fact they were just, like, treating her like that, and I can't help but feel like it's because she's a female character. And I pretty much talked to Wes, I was like, that's kind of ridiculous, like, whatever, just stop healing them. Like, the DM himself was literally like, hey, just stop supporting them and let them handle it. And I was like, you know what? I'm completely happy with that. And that's kind of why Ashira's kind of the way she is now. She's just like, you know what? You guys handle it. And that's kind of fitting to her alignment and kind of her background. She's true neutral. She's just been kind of just doing what she kind of, as far as her like witch patron, I kind of just said her witch patron was like the sea itself, like the ocean. The patrons in Pathfinder for witches is kind of vague, and they specifically say it's vague. And so I just have water as my patron, and so I was just like, all right, her patron's the sea. And so just like the sea, she kind of just goes with the ebb and tide, goes with the flow, and just, takes it as it comes. And she's pretty nonchalant, even to things that endanger her life. She's just like, all right, well, if, her background literally is that as a baby, she was the ship she was on got shipwrecked, and her entire family was gone, and she was just washed up on shore, and then she got taken care of, and then the people that took care of her died, and then she kind of took care of herself, and then she got some trouble. She tried sailing on her own to get to other locations, got shipwrecked, and did somewhere else. And so for the most part, her life is kind of like a blessing and a curse. Like, she's always like the sea is always ready to rescue her at the last moment, while at the same time take away things to ensure that she's like not growing like powerful or anything like that, or getting complacent, I guess you can say. And so for the most part, she's just not threatened by any of the crew members, and she's not threatened by any of the party members, especially since freaking Cahoon like pissed himself in the freaking mutiny. But then she's a witch and she has pretty fancy powers, so it's like she's she, like I said, she just kind of goes with the flow now. She's like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my own thing and go from there. Now I kind of had to step in and take a little bit more bigger role than Cook, because I do like the fact that Ashira is just kind of like that Cook character that's supposed to be like in the background, but she actually does like a lot of good things, like with her hexes and things. But obviously, due to the way the ship mechanics work, I kind of needed to step forward. And also, the original plan was Ashira was going to be the navigator slash pilot anyway, so I'm kind of interested in seeing how that mechanic works anyway. But yeah, so like I said, this video is kind of explain the mechanics for Ashira and kind of the stuff she's been going through. Like I said, I've been talking to Wes a lot, and Wes has kind of agreed. But he actually was the person that was like, yeah, you've been kind of carrying the party, and I definitely agree. Usually, I don't have any issues with like carrying the party because it happens. There's always someone that's like kind of your ace of the group, but in the case of this particular group, this group is really narrow as far as like how they're built, like their specializations and everything like that just made it so like everything ended up being lumped onto Ashira. Like Ashira can now do the sneaking, she can do the lock picking, all that fancy stuff because she just happens to have the skill points. And at this point, Ashira recognizes that, and she's just going to use that to her advantage. And since this is a pirate campaign, she's just going to be like, all right, well, if you want my help, you're going to have to pay for it. Now, to credit where credit's due, Ragnar Dwayne has had experience with World of Warcraft, and obviously he knows general quirks about that, where he's like, all right, you probably want to keep your healer happy, and he kind of takes that into account, and so that's why he's been trying to get Ashira get onto Ashira's good side. And then Dwayne and I have played World of Warcraft together, and he's pretty good at least recognizing when I'm annoyed. He could definitely tell that I'm pretty annoyed with how Cahoon's been treating Ashira and all that shit. I mean, for the most part, Ashira does not give a shit about Cahoon at this point, and it's just kind of watching to see what he does as a captain, and maybe he'll succeed, or he'll just fall flat. Either way, she'll be amused. Speaking of World of Warcraft, one of the things I've been both Wes and I have been really kind of annoyed with the group is the group always, like, Wes has been kind of playing with this group longer than I have, but I've played with some of these guys before as well, is the group kind of treats this like a video game. Like, it's like World of Warcraft. Like, they believe that their actions don't have consequences, and it drives both of us crazy. And at this point, we're just like, whatever, if you want to make stupid decisions, go for it. We're just kind of going off that. That, and the group's been kind of lazy as far as like reading any of the posts that Wes has been putting up that kind of explain the rules, and that's been annoying him as well. But that's just me kind of rambling at this point. But yeah. So I just wanted to kind of make this video to kind of explain what I've been going through as far as the campaign is concerned. It's a lot of fun. I definitely like it. I love playing the witch class. It's a lot of fun, especially as a support character. But I wanted to go ahead and clarify exactly why Ashira is kind of acting the way she is, where she's like, I literally don't want to make decisions for the party right now. I want this group to make their own decisions, and I will just work from there. I don't want to lead the party at all. And if they do want to make Ashira captain in the future, they're going to have to work for it. So that's kind of the position I'm in. That's not really something specific to this campaign. This has just kind of been over the many years I've played with Wes, and the time I played the previous campaign with Dialisa and Flex and all of them and that train wreck. So I just wanted to go ahead and point that out. So if you guys are like, man, you're thinking like, man, Eeyore, you're being kind of like a dick, there's reasons behind it. I just wanted to point that out. Out of character, obviously I'm completely cool with Chris. I'm completely cool with Dwayne and everyone else. And I mean, Wes and I just talk smack and talk shop all the time. So we're all cool overall, no matter what really happens in game. So anyway, I'm the Depressed Eeyore. See you guys later.